Hi guys, and welcome back to the weekly vlog. I understand it's been quite some time since you last had one, so for your first vlog back I thought I'd take you on a really cool experience. So today's a special day for two reasons. Firstly, we're diving headfirst into the presentation of the world's biggest and most famous bike race, the Tour de France. But secondly, you have yourself a new presenter today. Hi, I'm James, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Now I beg you all to be kind because vlogging is fairly new to me and this is my first vlog, so I might be a little rusty compared to what you're used to, but what I'll promise you though is that I'm going to take you on some really cool experiences. I come from a professional cycling background. I spent the majority of my professional career racing in France and racing in Austria, and I've been fortunate enough to go to 3 Commonwealth Games over that period. Most recently in Gold Coast in Australia this year, where I was 6th and I got a fairly good tan while I was at it. Well, I tried anyway. But now I'm giving everything to you guys, and I'm going to be taking you on everything from top pro tips in training, bike setup, to behind the scenes at events and races, to Q&As and ride-outs with current and ex-pros. I've also seen the inside of a lot of hotel rooms, so if you fancied a change from TripAdvisor, then I could well be your man for that as well. So how about we go on this journey then? I've got to get over to Paris, got to jump on the Eurostar, and I'll check in with you guys when I get there. And welcome to the presentation of the Tour de France. As you can see, we have champions past, champions present, and the rest of the cycling media. Hello again everyone, we are now here in the Palais des Congrès, and as you can see, the atmosphere is building massively, and understandably so, because this is, after all, the biggest and most famous bike race in the world. So before we get going and we actually find out what the route of this year's Tour de France is going to be, I thought I'd share with you some of, my predictions and, things I've seen on the internet as to what could potentially be in store for us in this year's route. So as we know, the race starts in Brussels with 2 really exciting stages. One including a team time trial, which, I'm a time trialist by trade and by background, so I love a team time trial. It's going to be exciting. The race then heads towards the Vosges Mountains, which will be an exciting place to race. It's had some great battles there in the past, and we're set to have a really exciting summit finish, by the looks of it, on La Planche de Belleville, but not as you might think. This summit finish of La Planche de Belleville, they've extended the road, by all accounts, onto a gravel section, finishing on 24%. So that is absolutely guaranteed to cause some big splits in the race early on. After La Planche de Belleville, we move towards the Pyrenees. Now, there have been some great battles in the Pyrenees in past years, and it's only set to be even hotter next year, with Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome going for the title amongst other big contenders. First big summit finish there is likely to be the Tourmalet, an infamous summit, very difficult, so it'll be an exciting stage to watch. After that, it's looking like we're heading to the Alps, and in the Alps we're going to have some very hard racing, big summits, Val Thorens potentially, so we'll wait and see, but as it happens, this race is looking to shape up to be an incredibly exciting event, and yeah, just look, everybody's packing out to find out what's going to happen, so catch you in a bit.
Le parcours de ce Tour de France pour 2019, il est très difficile.
Oui.
Je trouve que c'est un parcours pour les grimpeurs, avec beaucoup de difficultés dans les derniers jours dans les Alpes. C'est un Tour de France qui est concentré dans le sud de la France,
Oui.
avec les sprinteurs qui auront quelques possibilités, seulement 7 étapes pour les sprinteurs. Et ensuite, je crois que les grands grimpeurs vont avoir la chance de peut-être gagner le Tour parce qu'il est vraiment axé sur la haute montagne. Par rapport à l'année passée, oui, parce que l'année passée, de temps en temps, une fois, je crois ou deux, on était à 2000 mètres. Là, on va faire beaucoup d'étapes à plus de 2000, 2003, 2004, 2006, 2008, 2007. Donc ça, c'est vraiment différent parce que quand on est grimpeur, quand on a vraiment la capacité de grimper, on fait vraiment des écarts à passer des 2000 mètres. Quelqu'un qui ne sait pas trop grimper, à 1008, il est encore là, à 2002, il n'est plus là. Donc ça peut changer la donne. Je pense qu'un parcours comme ça, pour Chris Froome, ça peut être un parcours très intéressant pour lui, pour essayer de gagner. Et Thibaut Pinot, un coureur comme ça, pourrait, mais il faut lui aussi qui se mette la pression, et il est capable de faire un grand tour dans un tour comme ça, comme Romain Bardet. C'est deux coureurs en montagne qui peuvent faire des belles choses, donc on a de bonnes cartes en France.
Yeah, it looks tough. It always is though. So, but yeah, a lot of sort of hard, medium mountain days, and a lot of climbs over 2,000 meters. So I think that'll play a key role. And shorter TT, but I think he'll still play a big part of the race.
And we have many climbs with very high altitude, as you said. Do you like it?
Yeah, I think normally I seem to be okay at altitude and enjoy that. So yeah, I think it's good.
Okay, so we've got former yellow jersey wearer last year, I believe, and many years, many days in yellow. What do you think of the course this year?
I think it's a good course, pretty open, a lot of chances I think for everybody. Start in Brussels, which is going to be always special for me.
It's motivating for you, I think, isn't it?
So it's going to be cool to ride the Muur and the Bosberg in the Tour de France. And afterwards, I think a few chances Epernay for sure is one for me, and a few ones in the Central Massif. It's going to be pretty hard. Then we're going to try to win some stages with CCC, with some other riders, and see how far we can come.
Oh, and do you think the green jersey could be an objective for you next year? Or?
I think it's hard with Peter. Is super strong.
He's got to be beaten at some point, doesn't he? So.
He's going to be beaten at some point, but for him, as me, I'm not a kind of bunch sprinter, so I'm not collecting too much points there. But we will see how far I can come. But I think it's never been a really ambition to go for green, especially then with Richie in the team. We never even thought about it. Maybe now we are a bit different team to approach the race, and we'll see how far I can come.
Hi guys, so I'm now back from Paris. I'm back from the Tour de France presentation, and I thought I'd just share with you a few of my thoughts on the route, some topics discussed, as well as my favourites for the race. So firstly, a big talking point was the talk of power meters, and Christian Prudhomme has floated the idea of banning power meters in racing, in his race, the Tour de France. Now, I'm in two minds about this. I think, you know, power meters are so widely used now, and it's become, you know, a metric we all use to gauge performance and training. And in an age of technology, I think we don't want to restrict the sport in growing. If you look at the other sports like Formula One, we keep on getting more and more info by the year, giving us more insight into the racing and how the drivers drive and thoughts, and, you know, hearing radios, performance metrics. I think it's very interesting for the viewers. For cycling, there's always been this debate about how power meters kill the racing. Now, I do agree to a certain extent that power meters can kill the racing a little bit. It gives people peace of mind knowing that the performance they're putting out is unachievable for people if they start attacking. So I can see how it could potentially lead to more exciting racing. I think my only thought is that if you decide to ban power meters, then teams like Sky and other teams will just look for other metrics to be able to give themselves that same information. You know, whether that be, I don't know, for example, real-time blood lactate. data which would tell their riders at all points where and how close they are to their threshold, you know, which could be an interesting thing to think about. So I think if you try and restrict things in sport, people always try and find other ways around that to give themselves that same advantage that they want. Now onto the route itself, arguably one of the hardest tours in recent years. It's very, very concentrated in the south of France, southeast of France, as Richard Virenque said to me when we had a conversation about it. And with this comes 3 different mountain ranges, well, 4 almost. They go through the Vosges at the start, early on in the first week. They then traverse the Massif Central, and then they arrive in the Pyrenees for their first real test. Now, there are some big rendezvous on the way. There is the La Planche de Belfi, and there's been some big battles there in the front, and there have been some big battles there in the past. Chris Froome's won there, Fabio Aru's won there, Vincenzo Nibali's won there, so all of the great champions have won on this climb. But this time round they finish on a slightly different section. They go off-road for another kilometre once you get to the top, and they hit grades of 24% on gravel roads. So that is guaranteed to shape the racing early on. But don't think it will decide the race. Guys will lose the Tour de France there, but they won't win the Tour de France there. In the Pyrenees, we have some big rendezvous again. We have a summit finish on the Tourmalet. It's a climb I really love. My first experience of mountains was the Pyrenees, so you know my heart is very much in racing the Pyrenees, and I love all of the Tour de France stages which arrive there, all of the famous climbs. So that'd be exciting. We then move towards the Alps. Now this is where I think the most decisive parts of the race are going to be. We have 3 super hard days. Now I've got them on my computer here, if you can see. So this is the first of 3 days. And as you can see, you've got 3 major peaks. You go over the Col de Vers, you go over the Col d'Izard, and you go over the Galibier as well. All 2,000 plus meter climbs, 2001, 24 and 26. Now this really will suit the pure climbers, so expect people like Quintana, Egan Bernal, all of the people who've been brought up in high altitude, most of the Colombians. But don't rule out people like Chris Froome and Geraint Thomas. They've won the Tour de France before, whereas these other guys haven't, so they won't be scared of the high altitude, but I guarantee you it's going to be a very, very selective stage. And then the final stage, 131 kilometres from Albertville to Val Thorens. Now this climb is, yeah, it's tough. It's long, starts at 95 kilometres, finishes at 131. It's over 40 kilometres long, and it takes them from 539 metres in altitude right up to the summit of 2,365 metres in Val Thorens. Now, for this being the last stage of the tour before the traditional ceremonial stage, this will be one last opportunity for those people close to the GC to really pull out all the stops and give it everything they can before the finish. Because after this, that's it, it's done. There'll be no race in Paris, there'll just be celebration. So these final 3 days, expect to see fireworks. And if you haven't booked your days off work yet, then I certainly would, because it'll be well worth it. So, moving on to favourites. Who do you think is going to be a favourite? Well, my guess, I mean, you can't rule out Chris Froome or Geraint Thomas. Both of them are past Tour winners and are guaranteed to arrive there in the best shape. You have Vincenzo Nibali, who has openly said he's having one last crack at the Tour de France. He's won it before. He's a rider with panache. I love watching him. He's one of my favourite riders. But don't forget, you've got a lot of other great riders out there. A lot of the Colombians. You have Egan Bernal. You have Nairo Quintana. These are going to be, you know, very advantageous for the high altitude tour that this is going to be. It's one of the highest altitude tours which has ever been. So yeah, we will see. We'll see it in the build-up to the Tour de France, in the warm-up races, the Dauphiné, Paris-Nice. We will see how these people are going, and we'll start to get a feel for what their form is like leading into the Tour. But yeah, my pick, Vincenzo Nibali. support them all the way. I think, yeah, I think it'd be good, exciting. Now I hope you all enjoyed this vlog. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe while you're at it, because these vlogs will be coming at you hard and fast every Tuesday. And next week, we're at 6 Day London for an exciting weekend's racing. I cannot wait, and I'll see you all then.